So earlier this week, the Pro Bowl rosters were announced, and to no one's surprise, the Panthers led the league with 10 players named to this game. Also of interest, there are two rookie running backs, Devonta Freeman of the Atlanta Falcons, who I personally think is a great running back. Not the best in the rookie class, I'll talk about that in a minute, but he's having a great year. He's the focal point of the offense for the Falcons, and came into the season as the number 2 back behind their higher drafted running back Tevin Coleman. But he's having a great year and definitely deserves to be in Honolulu for this game. But another rookie running back, which is more surprising, I guess, to me is Todd Gurley. He's the Rams running back. You've probably seen a bunch of his plays from Georgia. He was one of the star running backs as a Bulldog in college. And he tore his ACL his senior year after serving the suspension for the autograph scandal, whatever you want to call that. But he's having a great year. He's like averaging 125 over like 6 games, and he's only played 12 games. Well, it'll be his 12th game. He's missed the first 4 because he's coming back from that ACL. But still, he made a great season out of these 11 games, and it'll be 12 and 13 at the end of the year, and he's already elected to the Pro Bowl. And he's just had a great year. He was breaking off huge runs, like 50, 60 yards, just all the time for the Rams. And I think he's going to be a special back, Adrian Peterson-esque, if he doesn't get into trouble with the law like he did at Georgia. But moving on to another position, DeAndre Hopkins and Brandon Marshall were rewarded for having great seasons instead of some other bigger names receivers. Obviously, some other guys were there, but I'm glad the Des Bryant, and who was gone for like 6 or 8 weeks in the middle of the season, wasn't named, and a couple of those other big guys that aren't really doing anything. But these 2 guys really deserve it. DeAndre Hopkins is having his, I guess, breakout season for the Texans. He came out of Clemson a couple years ago, and this was when they still had Andre Johnson, who's now on the Colts. But he was kind of shadowed as the number 2, and he was sitting behind Johnson, waiting for his time, learning from him. And this kid's good. He's 6'3", he's got great hands, everything you want out of a receiver. And he balled out this year with having 4 different quarterbacks, and they're not very good ones either. I mean, I couldn't do any better, but he had Brian Hoyer, Brian Mallett, Brandon Whedon, and TJ Yates. TJ Yates was probably the best out of those 4, and he was a 6th-round pick a couple years ago. That's just insane. And then Brandon Marshall is having a comeback year this year. Great for him. I remember I loved him as a Bronco. I was sad to see him leave as a Dolphin where he didn't do anything. Didn't do much on the Bears, but I still think he got elected a couple times. And then he's coming back with the Jets this year. Great season for him. I'm glad he gets to go. And then moving on to tight ends, we got Tyler Eifert and Travis Kelce. They got the nods this year. 2 of the nods for having their breakout years. Eifert was drafted by the Bengals out of Notre Dame a couple years ago, and when they still had Gresham as their main guy, no one really knew why they took him. But I remember seeing him in college, and he was this 6'6", huge receiving threat, fast. He was a wide receiver playing tight end, basically, and he's grown into being one of the best tight ends in the league. And you got Travis Kelce for the Chiefs, who's just basically a touchdown machine. He can catch it from about anywhere, run it from about anywhere. Just insanely good athlete. And moving on to the defense, we got a few new names on here. Got Khalil Mack of the Raiders, who had a 5-sack game a couple weeks ago against the Broncos, and he's kind of just one of those second-year guys under the radar. But I knew coming out of Buffalo, he's fast, he plays hard, he's physical, he's everything you want to see out of a player at defensive end. And you got Ziggy Ansah of the Lions. He's the new star defensive lineman. now that Ndamukong Suh and Nick Fairley are gone, he kind of took over the reins from them after learning from them for a couple years. And then Navarro Bowman and Eric Berry both highlight their comeback seasons with the trip to the Pro Bowl this year. With Navarro Bowman coming back from a gruesome injury and Eric Berry ending his battle with cancer. Also on the Pro Bowl roster was explosive Tyler Lockett. He's going to the Pro Bowl as a return specialist. But with all these players, there comes some snubs. Doug Baldwin is the first one that comes to mind. He's come on very late in the season as the go-to target for the Seahawks. And he came on about the same time that they started their hot streak to end the season. I talked about that last week's podcast, about how you can never count out the Seahawks. But he has caught multiple touchdowns in the last 4 games. Over that span, he's had 10 total touchdowns receiving. It was a 3-2-3-2. And that's just insane. You can get 10 touchdowns in 4 games. And he's now one of the league leaders in receiving touchdowns. Another snub is Allen Robinson, who also shares the league lead in touchdowns. Also with Beckham as well, Odell Beckham Jr., who was elected. Indianapolis also does not have a player selected, but they do boast Dickwell Jackson, who leads the NFL in tackles. Those are just a few of the players that should have been invited, but most of them will likely get there, just based on the fact from the past that some of the people, or a lot of the people on this roster currently, will not participate for one reason or another. May it be them going to the Super Bowl and cannot play, or being injured, or personal choice of just not wanting to get injured, whatever they choose. But the Pro Bowl is also becoming more of a popularity contest than anything. That's what these 4 snubs and this next one I'm about to talk about show. I didn't even mention Phillip Rivers. He leads the league in passing yards again, and he isn't there. The Pro Bowl needs fixed, and voting or how the players are selected needs to be revamped as well. If Phillip Rivers, who's leading the league in passing yards, can't get there, I don't know who or what gets you to the Pro Bowl anymore.